We're with Dr. Elizabeth Prodromou. She is a longtime friend and a very popular guest on all of our programs that we've had, OCN Now, Come Receive the Light. We're here together in Berlin, and we're taking a few minutes of her time. She's listed in the program this way: Harvard University Center for European Studies, a former vice chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. Elizabeth, good to see you again.
Good morning, Father. It's great to see you.
We're here in Berlin. It's a very special place. The setting of walls has been brought up, the tearing down of walls. Your perspectives here?
As you said, Father Chris, this is a historic city, and I think the archons judiciously chose this city as the backdrop for the walls, for discussing the walls that still exist between the Ecumenical Patriarchate and the Greek Orthodox community in Turkey on the one hand and the Turkish state on the other. In other words, how do we break down real and symbolic walls of discrimination and hatred that have been constructed by the Turkish government vis-a-vis the Patriarchate?
Some of us, I think, are asleep. I don't know if it's hyperbole to say that the Ecumenical Patriarchate is nearing extinction. Some people have actually said that. Is that hyperbole?
Father Chris, I think it's a very precise language that captures accurately the condition. I mean, I've used this language in my own writings and my work. The Patriarchate and the community numbers only about between 1,700 and 2,000 people now in all of Turkey. That's a drop from a high of probably 185,000 only 90 years ago. And the trend line is indisputable, and the drop has been precipitous. And I think for us Orthodox Christians, we need to awaken and realize that, in fact, the community is at risk of being erased. And it's at risk of being erased because the Turkish government, the Turkish state, has systematically and deliberately pursued a set of policies that's indeed designed to erase, to extinguish, to eradicate the community.
So it hasn't been a frontal attack. It's more like a cut in the neck that bleeds, but it's near the jugular. So it keeps bleeding and bleeding until the body just dies out.
I think that's true, but I think the way we need to think about it is over time. I said the last 90 years. The Turkish Republic was created in 1923, so they recently celebrated their 90-year anniversary. And in those 90 years, the Turkish state has used a mix of policies, like you said, frontal attack policies, things like pogroms, the Septembriana, so direct, physical and security assaults on the community, but then also these more insidious, because they're not as obvious, ways of, drawing the blood of the community. Property rights laws, they've expropriated so much individual and communal property. Inheritance laws, the community has been prohibited from inheriting its own property generation to generation. Things like limitations on employment, closing down of schools, so the inability to educate generations of the community. These are things that are done under the guise of laws, and yet those laws are specifically designed to force the community to leave, to create the conditions where it can't sustain itself. The body, to use your metaphor, is unable to sustain itself.
What does it mean to Orthodox Christianity, but many would say even to humankind, should we abandon the seat of the Ecumenical Patriarchate? If the successor to Andrew is forced, the first called apostle, married by the way, I like to add that, what would happen? What are the ramifications for that worldwide?
Well, for us Orthodox Christians, first of all, I don't think it's even an option to think of it.
It's unthinkable.
It's not. It's just not on a range of a menu of options. How could we abandon our father and mother? I mean, we don't abandon our family, so it's not even an issue for us. And I think we need to recognize that. Some people would say, "Oh, we can relocate the Patriarchate." Why?
Why would we?
Why would we do that? Our job is not to relocate. Our job is not to bow our head to oppression and persecution and discrimination. Our job is to struggle to be free and to help the patriarchate be free. So I think that's what we always have to keep in mind. That's our task, however onerous, however difficult, however at times hopeless it may be. Would a mother or a father give up on their child? Would our child give up on their parents? No. So we need to have that mentality, because that's what we are, a Eucharistic family. But beyond that, for the world, the eradication of the patriarchate would be a civilizational loss. The patriarchate, Orthodox Christianity, this is part of the civilization of the world, of the West. The gifts that come from the patriarchate, unfortunately, have in many ways been forgotten by the West and the world. But in fact, I mean, these are gifts that have been civilizational in nature. Ideas about freedom, ideas about equality, about universal rights that we use today. These are rooted in our faith and our faith tradition. And the patriarchate has been martyred and suffered for these ideas. They've lived them, and we have lost souls for this.
As we know, one of our patriarchs was actually hung from the gates, and those gates continue to remain closed to this day. They remain closed. The Archbishop spoke about many things, but he did speak about the fact that man was created to be a free being, to live and become in the image and likeness of Christ. Going forward, what can we do to reignite that flame and make it stronger? What are some things that the average person hearing this information could do?
Well, I think for us, again, Orthodox Christians, but more generally, but certainly Orthodox Christians, we have a special responsibility to try and take action. And I think there are several things. First of all, whenever possible, we should go to the Patriarchate. We should travel to the Fanar. We should go to Turkey. We should see the ancient lands in which we grew up, our seeds were planted. We need to see with our eyes what once was and what is today, because the eyes don't lie. And I think having seen that, we can then also share more effectively with others the reality of the condition that the community lives under. Now, of course, we can't all travel to Turkey and to the Patriarchate, but what we can do is we can read and learn. Every opportunity we have, we should learn about what's happening, and we should follow the news. And in today's world, that's a no-brainer. There's no excuse for us not
24/7.
that news, and we should share with others what's going on. We should ask of our elected officials that they are concerned with these matters. And as I said before, these are issues of universal human rights. These are not specific ethnic issues. They are universal issues, and they're important not just for the Patriarchate, but for anyone around the world who suffers under conditions of non-freedom. And I think that's an important message for us to remember and to share with others. The Patriarchate isn't some sort of Greek issue or ethnic issue. It's an issue of freedom of conscience, belief, and religion. Our conscience should be free the way we were created. That we believe as Orthodox Christians that we were created in freedom and in love. And these are universal issues. They're not restricted to Orthodox Christianity. But they're a gift that we can share with others, but we need to be conscious of it ourselves.
So everyone needs to take that trip, make that trip, if not physically, emotionally, and intellectually, and of course in prayer. Thanks very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Father Chris.